Hello, and welcome to the International Press Corps Delegate Training. I'm very happy you're all here if you are watching. And without further ado, let's get started. So, hello, I'm Greg Middleton. I am your Editor-in-Chief for the conference of the International Press. On the day of the conference, we will also be joined by Amelia, who will be the Deputy Editor-in-Chief, and I'm very excited for you all to get to meet her because she is fantastic. Now, let's start. So what is the International Press Corps? The International Press Corps, or the IPC, is a specialized model United Nations committee where, in lieu of representing countries, delegates, that will be you, will be assigned to an international press agency where they will be tasked with reporting on the activities of the committees at the conference. Delegates will submit deliverables or articles written in the style of their press agency and will be evaluated on them. So rather than speeches or the general speakers list or So, delegates will be able to request mini interviews with other delegates from committees. You will be expected to take note of committee documents and crisis updates, and you will be expected to publish anything you wish for a deliverable in each respective committee, as long as it relates to the topics that are discussed in the conference. So, in essence, your job is to make sure that everything is recorded accurately in the style of your publication that is being discussed in the committee that you are reporting on. So, what are deliverables? A deliverable is merely a press release or an article written by yourselves in the style of your publication on whatever matter about which you are writing. This means that if a committee is talking about human rights or drug trafficking or even a war going on, you'll be expected to sit in that committee or to keep yourself updated on what is going on in that committee and write about it in the style of your publication. There will be deadlines for when to send them in increments throughout the conference, and they must be sent to either the editor-in-chief or the deputy editor-in-chief. Be sure that your deliverable is in the style of the publication to which of you have been assigned. This is really important. Just as a delegate for a country would be expected to keep what he or she or they is saying in line with the opinions of their country, you will have to say things in line with the publication for which you're writing. Now, in order to do that, you'll have to know how to write them. And as I've said, the writing style of all pieces should aim to mimic and reflect the existing customs of the organization which you are representing. That means that obviously an article in Time magazine is going to have a different style of writing and tone to a newspaper like the New York Times. Getting the writing style nailed is really important. It's a key part of early preparation and research for the committee. Ensuring that you have a solid understanding of the writing style of the publication which you are representing should serve as a key part for being successful and winning awards on this committee. So what I would advise, therefore, just from that is make sure you're well researched with your allocation. Make sure, and the best thing to do for that is just read publications from the agency that you're assigned. So it is up to you how you choose to format your work. However, me and Amelia will be evaluating all reporters on the quality of your writing, not on the formatting of your work. Therefore, all reports should be an A4 page and sent as a PDF image file or Google document to me and Amelia so that we can make sure that your work is assessed in a way that's fair to you. So, the scope and limit of deliverables. There isn't actually a limit on the number of deliverables that you can submit. However, there will be a limit of one per committee for each delegate. So make sure you choose wisely on what you're writing. This is to prevent the oversaturation of any one committee because we don't want one committee getting reported way more than the others. And it is important to note that quality over quantity will be evaluated. And what we mean by that is you don't necessarily have to write massively long articles as long as you are getting a very clear essence of the publication you're writing. And we can see that you've done that well and researched well, then you will be given merit on those grounds. So continuing with the scope and limit. The deliverables can, again, be of any format you desire. As long as it is professional and complete, we will accept the deliverable. The one rule of the deliverable is that it should be minimum one page double-spaced or 300 words. Anything below that won't be accepted, but anything over that will. The format should be 12-point font and legible. Ideally, please submit it in Times New Roman because it's just easiest for us to read. Double-spaced or single-spaced is fine. And also, if you can, please come up with a catchy title for the piece. And don't forget to write what agency it is coming from and the reporter's name. That's very important, otherwise we won't know who you're assessing, and it also doesn't hit the right realism otherwise. So, an IPC interview. There are also breakout rooms where IPC delegates can use for interviews with delegates from committees. There is a text box located here that IPC delegates can write in to ask questions to a particular delegate, but all delegates can read. All delegates can mention any role here calling for an interview and what room it will take place in. Afterwards, feel free to use one of the voice breakout rooms. Some have a limit to the number of participants and others don't. But if you are taking any part for an interview, please inform the IP chairs. Again, that's me and Amelia. This is not applicable whilst asking questions via the chat. I would advise you to use this to the best of your ability, because your pieces become all the more convincing when you have quotes from a delegate. There is another case in which all delegates call for an open press conference. If that is passed, then during the press conference, the committee will have a speech prepared that will be read by the chair in the very beginning, and media may prepare and ask brief questions for a period of no less than 2 minutes, but no more than 5 minutes. So make sure your questions are as concise as possible so that you can get the most out of the press conference. Then, to ask that question, please private message the chair or the IP editor that is moderating at that moment. And we have a question that they might recognize you to ask that. Before a question is asked, please announce the agency represented and the addressee of the question. That's also important because it might affect the way in which the delegates might choose to respond. So there are deadlines for the deliverables, and this is the only limiting factor to how many you can give. If you're seeing this slide, it's very important for you to take note of this. 10:15 GMT, it is the briefing with us at the beginning of the conference. At 11:30, that is the first report deadline. Again, it doesn't matter which committee you're doing that for, but that's the time the first report should be in. At 1 o'clock, the second report deadline, and so on and so forth, as you can see on that page, all the way up until the closing ceremony at 2:30, to which you will all be invited. So what should you do prior to the conference? As I've already said, it's really important to research. Please research the press agency that you will be representing. Look up its reporting style, bias, and most importantly, its history. What does the agency historically like to cover? Are there any famous stories to do with the UN or otherwise that it's conducted? And what are some of its beliefs and ideologies? Because that will almost certainly affect the way in which you write about something you're reporting on. A position paper. A position paper for the international press at Together Month should include A, around a half page on your new agency's history and its views on the current geopolitics, just so that we know, so that we have some background when assessing. B, around another half page on the conferences, committees, and topics at this or past editions of Together Month. Any two. Moreover, the committees of this and the past edition can be found on our Instagram, and that's at together.mun for our tag. Frequently asked questions. So a frequently asked question we get is, are there any awards? Yes, there are. We will give an award to the reporter and or press agency that we feel did best in reporting realistically, and the way in which they did that. Another question we often get are there participation certificates? Now there are, but in order for you to get a participation certificate, you have to, and I'm sure this will come as a surprise for many of you, you will have to participate. You must submit a minimum of 3 appropriate deliverables, 1 per session, in order for you to qualify for a participation certificate. So, tips and tricks from me and Amelia to you. One of them is to treat model UNs as a learning experience. Yes, we want you to have a lot of fun, and that's because exactly what MUNs are. They are a lot of fun. But the reason why so many education institutes like your school will love it if you have an MUN is because they're also a really good learning experience. And often throughout MUN, they will teach you skills like diplomacy. But also a skill that schools love you to learn is journalism, fair reporting, etc., etc. And that is really what IP is there for you to do. It really does kind of bring the kind of rounded edge to MUNs. Another tip and trick for you is research on your stance and stick to it. Just as if you were a delegate for a country that is doing things with ideology that you may not agree with, but you still have to stick to them. If you are given a publication that has an ideology or reporting history that you don't necessarily agree with, you will still have to stick to that stance because it's all part of the role play that makes this experience so immersive. and then that circles back to the everlasting point of, you know, make sure you're well researched on that, because it will show in your writing when you're sending it to us. And lastly, we want you to stay proactive throughout the conference, and do not hesitate to ask your chairs for help if you need it, okay? If I were to level with you here, this is my first time chairing an international press conference. So I'm as new to it as all of you, and I was never afraid to ask questions when I was starting this, and now I'm much better at it than I was when I started this job. The same will apply. If you are nervous about anything, just don't hesitate to ask questions, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. That leads us to the fact that if you have any questions, please do not be shy to ask them. Please direct them to our email, togetherman@gmail.com, and a staff member will answer them as soon as possible. We want this to be a fun experience, and we all know that things aren't quite as fun if you're not entirely sure what you're doing. So please don't be shy to ask them. We are here to help. Okay, thank you so much for watching. And if you can't wait, and we can't wait to see you on the 6th of February at Togetherman 3.0. We hope you're having a fantastic time, and we're looking forward immeasurably to seeing you. Thanks very much. Goodbye.